So it took me climbing a glacier in Alaska to have an epiphany about my life. So a little backstory: I was 28 years old, and it occurred to me that the career path that I was slightly on might not be the right one. It also occurred to me that I was still living in the Midwest and I hadn't yet made my way back to New York City where I belonged. And I had not sustained a relationship, and actually I still had not learned how to flirt. And so as I was making my way up that glacier, it became clear to me that that probably correlates with the fact that I'm 100% risk averse, that I prefer to not set goals for myself, because what if I fail at those goals and I sort of prove to everyone in my family that I can't quite make a go of this thing called like trying to be an adult. And so I had this epiphany that I need to do something, and the thing I need to do is I need to be spontaneous, because I had it in my head that spontaneous people are people who take risks, and they're people who sort of get what they want. So I just need to be spontaneous, and I was pretty pleased with this idea. And I made my way back down the glacier, and I made my way back to Ann Arbor, and I told my friends that starting today, I'm now a spontaneous person, and sort of in their defense, they've sort of heard me proclaim all kinds of self-improvement plans that hadn't happened, but they really felt like you don't actually plan to be spontaneous. That isn't actually how spontaneity works. But I'm like, I think I'm onto something, because if a spontaneous situation arises, I'm going to be ready. So fast forward a couple months, and I meet someone who I start dating, and we're together, and we're dating for probably about a year. So we're sort of doing that thing that I think a lot of people do. I think particularly in your 20s, you do this when you're still trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, like where you want to live. Are you going to go to grad school? Are you going to quit your job and travel? Like, are you going to go back to where your parents are? Like, what are you going to do? And we were both pretty cagey about how much we were going to involve the other person in our plans, which truly makes it impossible to plan any fucking thing, because you're just like, anyway. So I was out for a drink with Ruth, who I like to call my very practical friend Ruth. And I'm doing something that at least I did a lot in my 20s, which is I was discussing my life in kind of excruciating detail. And so as we're talking, she says, Jen, since I met you, you've wanted to go back to New York. You should just go back to New York. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, that is what I should do. And I felt really good for about 10 seconds. And then I thought, I'm scared to go back to New York, because is that going to be the demise of my relationship? Like, is it going to call the question? Like, what is going to happen? And so Ruth, being the practical person that she is, she said, oh, it sounds like you're sure about Matt, who is the name of my boyfriend. And I said, yeah, I guess I am. And so she said, well, then you should propose. And so, I was about to say, yeah, that's so not going to be what I do. And then it occurred to me, that is what a spontaneous person would do. A spontaneous person would propose. So I said, that is such a good idea. Thank you. So I had about a 10-minute walk home, and so by the time I got home, I knew this was absolutely not going to happen. And I walk in the door, and my housemate hands me the phone. Ruth only lives 8 minutes away, so she's on the phone, and so I take the phone, and Ruth says, okay, so what is your plan? What is your proposal plan? And I said, well, I don't have one. And she said, okay, this was a Sunday. She said, what are you doing Saturday night? And, luckily, I already had plans, so I couldn't possibly not go to the movies with Anne. So I said I had plans, and she said, okay, undeterred. She said, okay, well, what are you doing Friday night? And I had no plans Friday night. So I said, well, I guess I'm going to propose. So I hang up the phone. I call Matt. I said, Friday night, pick me up at 7, like wear something fun. I hung up the phone, and then I get out the phone book and I look up the phone number for the Earl, which is the fancy French restaurant. I call the Earl and I make a reservation for 7, and I hang up the phone. And then I sit there and I think, okay, I have 5 days to figure out my plan, my proposal plan. So after work Monday, I do my first step, which is to try on every single thing in my closet till I find the cutest combination I can pull off. So that's Monday night. Tuesday night, I'm like, okay, he's not going to want an engagement ring. Okay, I'm going to get him the engagement leather jacket. So I go and I buy him a leather jacket, and then I bring that home. That's Tuesday night. Wednesday night is a bit of a pathetic night, but I realize I need a fail-safe because I'm not very good at the reason why I don't set goals for myself is I usually don't achieve my goals. And so I knew that there was a pretty good chance I was going to sort of just completely blow this. And so if it turned out I didn't have the courage to sort of say, will you marry me, I took these index cards. And if anyone is familiar with the Burma Shave advertising, where like, yeah, so on each index card, I wrote one thing I loved about him, color-coded it, and then I did 9 of them. And in the last one, it said, therefore, ... And so that would be my cue. Like, so I would hand him the cards, he would read them, and that would be my cue. I didn't want to use it, but it made me feel better knowing I had them. So that was Wednesday night. Thursday night, I sort of made a list of possible answers he could give me. I thought of 8. And then I tried to prepare an answer for each of his answers. So that was Thursday night. Felt good about that. And then Friday, I took the day off from work, and I rented a bunch of romantic comedies because I figure if Sandra Bullock can fall in love in a subway station and find love, like, that would, that'd get me in the mood. So I did that Friday, and then it occurred to me, oh, I can't put the leather jacket in my purse, so I should drive it to the restaurant and have it there, and so they could bring it out with the dessert. So I talked to them about this, and they're like, oh, absolutely. And they said, so what's the occasion? And I'm like, it's his birthday. Because what if, he says no, and then total strangers know my shame. So we do that, and then, fast forward a couple hours, we're at the restaurant, and I'm nervous as hell, and I'm having a hard time eating, and I'm trying to balance, like, food and alcohol to just, get up my courage, but not get drunk, but I'm not really eating. And so then they come to see if we want dessert, and unprecedented, Matt says, no, he doesn't want dessert because French food is really heavy, and so he wasn't hungry. So, but meanwhile, we need dessert. So I'm like, no, we're having dessert. And so, so what probably was 10 minutes from when they took the dessert order to they came out, but felt like 10 seconds. So they come out, and as some of you maybe already figured out, they come out with a candle in the dessert. And it turns out it's one of those restaurants where not only does the waiter sing happy birthday to you, but all the wait staff sings happy birthday to you. And then the whole section joins in. And for reasons I still don't understand, one of his housemates happened to be walking by, this expensive restaurant, and he stops and he's like, I didn't know it was your birthday, man. And Matt's like, it's not my birthday. And so at this point, I'm making eye contact with no one, right? Like, it is clear to me that this has been derailed, And so they finish, they leave. Matt's like, that was weird, And so I hand him the leather jacket box. I pull out the index cards and I hand it to him. And any hope of being sort of bold in, being bold in my bold moment was gone. And I hand him the cards. And so he reads each of them. And then he gets to the therefore ... I do screw up my courage and I do say, will you marry me? And he, instantly says, yes. Which, was a nice moment, but I actually hadn't been expecting a full-out yes. I was expecting thanks so much for asking, I need some time to think about it. Or, I had like a cascading series of things, and I kind of had him at like the 2, 3, or 4, but not at the number 1. And so the problem for me when something happens that I'm not expecting is my instincts kick in. And my instincts have really never had my interests at heart, as far as I could tell. So I say, are you sure? Don't you think don't you need a little more time? But Matt never had any trouble being spontaneous, and so he was sure. Thank you.